What's up, YouTube? So before we get started with this video, on first take, thinking about talking about Antonio Brown and how he's using the whole helmet issue to not show up to practice. So see what they have to say about that.
Well, I think it's a big deal. I think it's a big deal because, first of all, Antonio Brown has acted like a disgrace. He's been very childish, very belligerent, unnecessarily so. The rules that are being implemented apply to every single player in the league. Out of 2,000 plus players, he's the only one that's acted this way, making an absolute damn fool of himself. Just an embarrassment, to be quite honest with you. But then when you go as far as to engage in a level of insubordination where for somebody needs to explain, and I'm going to leave it to Marcus and Ryan to explain to me how every time this guy has a problem over the last several months, since he got $30 additional million in guaranteed money, by the way, every single time he's got a problem, he has to be out of practice. He has to leave. He can't be around his team. I mean, listen, helmet or no helmet, what's wrong with you being on the field running routes? What's wrong with you being on the field creating a chemistry with Derek Carr? What's wrong with you being around your teammates since you're arguably the face of this franchise and you're a
It's probably because Antonio Brown doesn't want to go to training camp. He doesn't want to do two-a-days, which is understandable because a lot of guys don't. And Antonio Brown knows that he's good enough that he can just step on the field and just turn it on. He's good enough that he can just go out there and start balling on week one without really doing training camp. So, I don't know. Let's continue.
What's wrong with doing that? Somehow, some way, he uses all of this stuff, this petulant nonsense, as an excuse not to be around his team. But then last but not least, fellas, let me tell you something right now. You saw his tweet over the weekend. He used the N-word, for life, to describe what the acronym the NFL stands for. The N-word, for life. That level of insubordination, I understand that you got the NFL, by the you-know-what right now because of the residue from Colin Kaepernick, Eric Reed still speaking out the way that he does, etc. And so if you're the NFL, you got to dance the dance a little bit before really drawing a hard line. But this is clearly some incredible insubordination going on with him. Very disrespectful. And that's not good. You don't want to create an environment where you're inviting guys to exercise that level of discretion and come at you the way that Antonio Brown has been coming at you. It's disgraceful. It's immature. It's childish. It's petulant. And to be quite honest with you, I wouldn't blame them one bit if they sat up there and said, we don't want you behind anymore. They ain't going to do that because he's arguably the best receiver in the world. But he has warranted that kind of reaction.
So AB has just been an idiot. There's no reason whatsoever for him to bring up race and to say the NFL is abbreviation for anything like that. This is not the time or not the case to be bringing up anything racial in the NFL, especially if they were being that racist. Will those owners give you a $30 million guarantee check? I don't think so. Well, maybe they would. But still, this isn't the time to be crying about race. This is not the time at all. Because what it does, it waters down and cheapens the times that people call out race issues. It's a real race issue. It's being watered down when Antonio Brown makes these type of stupid accusations. When something racist really does happen, people are not going to take it as serious because you have guys like Antonio Brown crying wolf when there's nothing there. There's nothing to cry about. So, I don't know. Let's continue.
Based on the way he's conducting himself.
Man, this is a flea to a giant, man. The NFL ain't worried about this. Like, this is not something that's on Roger Goodell's plate. The rules are the rules. And they'll let him go through whatever he wants to go through and bring these helmets and get them tested and tweet about getting helmets and giving away Raiders practice helmets. It doesn't matter to the NFL. This is more an Oakland Raider problem. Right, and Molly said that Mike Mayock gave an ultimatum. That's not an ultimatum. That's like, hey, man, we want you in and we want you all in. But even if you're not all in for this week, as long as you're all in for week one, we're happy. Like nobody's setting a hard line with Antonio Brown.
So I agree with Ryan there. The NFL probably doesn't really care about this necessarily, and it's an Oakland Raiders problem. But I tell you what, I wouldn't be tripping on this at all because if I was the team owner or the head commissioner, I'd be like, look, Antonio Brown, you don't want to wear your helmet? Fine, that's fine. Don't wear the helmet. But you're going to sign a waiver that says if you have CTE, you have a brain injury, you have anything wrong with your head, you sign off and the NFL is not responsible for anything from today to the rest of your life. So that means in 20 years, you come up with CTE, you have brain injuries, or anything happens, you can't come back to the NFL. You can't come back and get any type of medical insurance. You can't get anything because you signed a waiver. You didn't want to wear the appropriate safety helmet. So we are absolved of anything that happens to you from today to the end of your life. Also, we're going to fine you $1 million a game that you do not wear the new helmet. And that $1 million check is going to go to the opposing team. So if you don't want to wear the new helmet, fine, you can wear your old helmet, but sign up on the contract, absolving NFL for anything for your brain, and you're going to give over your $1 million check to the opposing team. So if you don't want to show up, no problem. Don't worry. You wear whatever helmet you want. It doesn't really matter. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. So let's continue.
Up on that, though, because I felt like he was, and I thought that was pivotal to say you're either all in or all out. Like, they were finally showing that the Raiders are fed up with him, even though John Gruden had supported him so much. So you just think that's all fluff?
Yeah, it's posturing, right? It's him coming out because, one, Mike Mayock volunteered that information. That wasn't a regularly scheduled media presentation for him. It wasn't his opportunity to speak to the media. He walked over because he wanted to get this point out, right? He wanted to show the world. He wanted us to talk on Monday about how he put out this great ultimatum. An ultimatum is you come to practice today. And if you don't come to practice today, there's going to be an issue. The same way Ezekiel Elliott's getting fined because he's not in camp. What are we going to do about Antonio Brown? Like Stephen A. said, every time you have a problem, you take your ball and go home. Right? The Oakland Raiders ain't changed the helmets, right? The Oakland Raiders aren't saying that these new helmets are safer and you have to wear them. That's the NFL. So what's the problem with being on our practice field? What's the problem with being in our meeting rooms? And what's the problem with being in our meeting rooms today? That's not what they're doing. So this isn't an NFL problem. This is a John Gruden, Mike Mayock, Oakland Raider problem. And they aren't trying to fix it because you know what he said at the end of all that? And we hope in week 1, AB's a part of that. Well, why does he not have to be a part of it today? Because you aren't making him, right? Because you aren't holding him.
Well, no, you have to be kind of careful because he is a star player, and you do want him out there. So you be kind of cautious with that. And as far as what AB's doing, man, I tell you what, he's going to be making it very, very hard for the next person, the next player that the coaches or whoever think about giving a $30 million guaranteed contract. Because who wants to go through this? Why am I going to give a guy $30 million straight up? And you complaining about a helmet. Everything you crying about anything and everything. So I don't know if we're going to be giving out any more $30 million contracts because we don't want to have to go through another AB type of situation. So AB is not really screwing himself over. He's screwing over the next player that might have an issue or the next player that won't get $30 million because AB is ruining it for somebody. Ruining it for a lot of people. So I don't know. Let's continue.
Accountable.
Let's keep it 100. AB don't want to practice. AB want to show up week 1 and play. All AB want to do is...
That's a lie, Marcus. Marcus, and you my dog. I played with him. The dude works.
Bro, I'm not questioning the work ethic. Like, that's the thing that's synonymous with AB, and that's probably why he's getting more of a pass than somebody else that's not showing up to work. But think about this, Ryan. AB has gotten everything he's wanted from the Oakland Raiders. He looked for a team that was going to pay him as one of the highest paid receivers. They delivered on that. He looked for a team that was going to embrace him and his personality with open arms. They did that. Now we bring in the helmet issue, and we start talking about the helmet is the reason why he's not around the team. Like you said, he takes his ball and goes home when things aren't going right. What is the only conclusion we can draw other than the fact that AB doesn't want to practice and he wants to play in games? The love affair with Derek Carr at the beginning of this signing tells you that AB was going to be all in with the Oakland Raiders. That was his guy. He wanted to show up to practice and change everything about the narrative and the scenario. This is who AB is now. Before he got to Oakland, he didn't come to practice. He showed up to the Pittsburgh game saying he wanted to play. And he said Tomlin and everybody else said he didn't want to participate in the game. This is who he's become. This is the guy that he is. And then, too, like getting to the narrative, what Stephen A. brought up, which I think is important and we're going to get into later. Like, how are we allowing these guys to continue to criticize the person that name is on their check and then act like that they're bigger than that? Like, if you, look, it's simple for
Roger
me.
Goodell name ain't on that check?
Ryan, I'm talking about the NFL.
That name ain't no. It was Mr. Rooney name on my check.
To the point when AB is talking about blank in the NFL,
I got you.
and
Right.
it's an NFL issue and all of that. There is an underlying factor, bro. Like, if you don't want to be a part of the power structure, we know what the NFL is. The NFL ain't really ever gave a damn about social justice issues. The only way that this arose was because of Colin Kaepernick. So to the point of what Stephen A was saying is, you can make no